Humanities Project, Year 1. Hello, my name is Patton Sciaino. I am a freshman, first year humanities student at Morristown High School. And a little bit about me, I am transgender. I use they, them pronouns, and that will matter later on. A little introduction to my experience at humanities. Like many other first year humanities students, I came into this class kind of blind. My best friend kind of said, if you're not going to do STEM Academy, do humanities with me. And I said, okay, cool. And now I'm here. I thought it was kind of like the opposite of the STEM Academy. And like it was like all about like English and history and stuff like that, which it is not. And that like it was all about researching and like basic school projects like we do in any other class. But I promise you, these projects are nothing like those. So, my first project idea for this year was to do a little 30-day art challenge with a book I bought off of Amazon that was like walking you through bettering your art skills. And I did it for like a week, but I became not consistent with it and I just didn't enjoy it. This was the art I made. It was all about like shapes and like the basics, just using a pencil. And it's art, I guess, but I didn't love it. And it was really boring. And that isn't really what I like to do with my art. This is art I did before and after the failed challenge. And as you can hopefully see, it's a lot more colorful and it's more just whatever I want to do. I kind of do it. I don't really like structure or being told what to draw. So it was a lot more freeform when I could just do whatever. And yeah, I liked it a lot better. So I decided to scrap my first project idea and go into something that was a little more meaningful to me, which was better facilities at Morristown High School for transgender students to feel safe and comfortable at our school. So, original draft of that project had two different parts. The first part was getting bathrooms that were labeled as gender neutral that anyone could use, and it was all about accessibility and getting people aware that they existed and that the policy existed to create these, but it just wasn't being fulfilled. The second part was about curriculum, more specifically the health curriculum, as it is very limited and not really respectful when talking about gender identity because they don't know a lot if they're teaching it because they're not trained. So it was focusing on like education and training gym teachers and health teachers to provide students with the good education, because when I went through the tiny little gender identity and sexuality unit in 7th grade, my teacher didn't know anything off of her slideshow, and I answered all of my peers' questions. So on this screen, you can see the use of facilities section of the board policy about gender expression and identity. And I know my webcam cuts it off a little bit, but you don't need to read all of it. It's kind of complicated. It just says that everyone deserves and is entitled to restrooms, locker rooms, and change of facilities that are accordance with their gender identity, which isn't being fulfilled and honored if we don't have gender neutral facilities that are accessible and not just tucked away in the basement by the woodshop room or in the nurse's office. So I decided in my further steps, I decided to focus the project as it was getting a lot because both of these topics are complicated. So I focused on bathrooms specifically this year, and it was tough because I wanted to do both and I couldn't really do both. But in the future, I will hopefully accomplish both of these goals. The next two steps were kind of happening at the same time. I would send emails to my assistant principal and to other people in administration. I would send emails, I would get emails back, and I would meet with them, and it was a lot of back and forth, and that back and forth is still happening. And then it was a lot of waiting for them to like review stuff I had given to them, and waiting to hear back. And that was all fine. It was just kind of tough for me because I wanted to get it done now, but that obviously wasn't going to happen in anything. And which brings me to my habits of mind, because I learned a lot through this, and I didn't realize how much I'd learned until I was making this presentation a couple weeks ago and was actually getting into it. I was like, wow, I learned a lot more than I realized. The first one is courage. I learned courage because to me, adults are scary. Talking to people who have the power to completely veto my ideas, and something I felt was extremely important to me. So being able to muster up the courage to email them and then talk to them in person about such important things was tough, but I did it, and I'm really proud of myself for doing that. I I know that I learned it because I used to do color guard, and I didn't do the winter season, and so I hadn't seen those people in a long time. And more recently, when I went back to rehearse for the Memorial Day parade as marching band and color guard marches and plays during the Memorial Day parades in our county, I was terrified because I hadn't done guard in a long time, and I hadn't even talked to most of those people in a long time. And I felt kind of out of place because I didn't quite remember everything, but I still went and I did it, and I'm happy I did it because the Memorial Day parade was a lot of fun. The next thing I learned was empathy, and I didn't realize I learned empathy until I was revising the slideshow when Mr. Daly told me that I should switch this out, switch empathy in for a different habit I had before, because I was talking about learning empathy without realizing I was talking about learning empathy. I had to get into the mind of the administration or anyone I was proposing this idea to, and realizing that they might not see it like I saw it. I saw it as something simple and painfully obvious that it was necessary, but other people didn't necessarily see that. And I had to realize that and understand that, and then take it and try to put myself in their shoes and see how they saw it, so I could uh, help them see it a bit more my way. I also learned responsibility because I had to meet with adults again, which was scary, and I'm a kid and I didn't realize I could meet with them, like set up the meeting and all that stuff by myself. But I did, and I did it, and that's impressive for myself. And I learned how to be responsible in my community, in my environment, and taking up like the mantle of pushing this mission forward and getting this done. Uh, I am not a very clean person. It sounds very weird. I promise it has context. But I became responsible in my personal life and started cleaning out my fridge because there's a lot of stuff in there that is old and needs to be taken out so we can fit more food in there and all of that. And I am messy in my personal life, and this helped me realize that if I kept everything organized and I was responsible for all of the different tasks, I could apply it to my fridge or different other parts of my personal life. So the next steps of this project are still kind of happening. I'm still in negotiations, or going back and forth, more thoroughly negotiation, but with our with some assistant principals and with our principal, Mr. Manning, about what I can do to better my proposal and better my idea, to actually get this to happen. And if it doesn't happen this year, as it is coming close to the end of the year, I will continue to work on it next year in humanities, and I will make sure that throughout my time in high school, this happens because it's extremely important to me, and I'd like to see it through. Thank you for listening.